Hey, fellas, I'm not a urologist, but what I do completely depends on your health. So let's talk about your health, because what we're not going to do is allow y'all to be misinformed in these streets. Before we get into what I do, a little housekeeping. Go ahead and click subscribe if you're new to the channel. Give us a thumbs up and click that notification bell because I talk about your health all the time. And I will explain why in a quick hot second. But before we get into that, the first thing I want to do is really talk about this topic that's hitting the internet in waves. Because what in the heck is going on?
Well, Uncle Pete has got a treat, and you'll be glad you came. Testosterone.
Okay. Did y'all hear about the new military policy? And by the way, shout out to our military. We salute y'all and thank you so much for your service. As always, much love. Now, there is a new military policy that is proposing the screening of military men specifically for testosterone levels. The screening is for men that are over the age of 30. For younger men, they can opt in if they desire, but it's mandatory at their annual physical assessment for men that are over the age of 30. And those who are detected to have lower levels of testosterone will be given testosterone replacement therapy. So there's a little shadiness in that. But let's talk about that. Why? Okay, so some of you may be asking, do we in general screen for testosterone deficiency? And the answer is yes, but it's specific to individuals who are showing signs or symptoms that may indicate an actual deficiency. So there is no broad screening recommendation for the general population. And there are reasons for that. Testosterone replacement therapy should not be taken lightly, just like we don't take lightly hormonal replacement therapy in women. Now, the first thing you should know is both men and women produce testosterone just in different amounts, but it is produced in both biological genders, right? You will see some women who are on testosterone replacement therapy as well. And there are specific indications for that. But when it comes to our gents, there are certain symptoms that are more linked with testosterone deficiency. So, for example, the bedroom activity. If you have a lower desire to be active in the bedroom, and I'm using covert terminology, y'all, just so I can make sure that we don't get what on this platform and that you're able to actually see this information. So individuals who have a lack of interest in the bedroom, individuals who may have performance issues in the bedroom, and then there are certain physical presentations that may be indicative of a deficiency, like a reduction in your muscle mass, and sudden increased body fat percentage. Some men may actually develop the formation of boobs and a loss in the bone density. Those are symptoms that those are certain physical findings that are linked or could be linked to a deficiency. There are certain chronic illnesses that are also linked to deficiencies. That includes metabolic dysfunction, your type 2 diabetes, your HIV associated weight loss, as well as pituitary disorders. Now, taking certain medications may also put you at risk for having a deficiency. So individuals who are on opioids, chronic opioids, and individuals who are taking steroids may be at risk, specifically glucocorticoids. So there are definite specific indicators that will then potentially trigger a evaluation for testosterone deficiencies. So the issue with this policy is that it's a broad screening. It's not looking for physical presentations or even symptoms. It is a broad screening of all military servicemen who are over the age of 30. Are there benefits to testosterone? Absolutely, there are benefits to testosterone replacement therapy. Again, replacement therapy indicates that the individual has a known deficiency, but also presents with some type of symptom. So being asymptomatic and taking testosterone replacement therapy is currently not recommended. So based on the things that I just described in terms of signs and symptoms that may be indicative of a testosterone deficiency, you can probably already guess what some of the benefits of taking testosterone replacement therapy are. And so, for example, I mentioned the loss of muscle mass as an indicator of potential deficiency. So, clearly, taking replacement therapy may result in an increase in your muscle mass, right? And specifically in your lean muscle mass. There is also a bedroom benefit, an increase in desire to be active in the bedroom, an increase in performance, and a help when it comes to ED. Then you talk about bone density. As I mentioned, a deficiency may be indicated in someone who has a sudden unexplained loss of bone density. And so that individual can benefit from testosterone replacement therapy. Now, energy and mood have been found to also benefit from replacement therapy as well. So there are very clear benefits of someone taking testosterone therapy. But as I mentioned or alluded to, just like hormone replacement therapy requires really good counseling in our women, so does testosterone replacement therapy because there are potential side effects and risk. So let's talk about those. So who's going to tell Hag that he may not get the results he's looking for when it comes to the macho man that he's expecting to be developed by this testosterone replacement therapy program?
Watch your little guy salute. Watch your rifle cock and shoot. Testosterone.
Because, first of all, one of the things that you should know about how hormones are regulated in the body is that the body works on a feedback mechanism when it comes to hormones, most hormones, right? Which means the body constantly checks to see how much hormone is circulated in the blood, and then it regulates the gland or the organ that produces the hormone based on the amount that is detected. And so if the hormone level is low, there may be upregulation of the hormone in the target gland. If there is too much hormone detected in the bloodstream, then the body will then downregulate the production of the hormone by that gland. And so when you are given testosterone exogenously, which means you are taking in or injecting or transdermally. There are different forms of testosterone. There's oral, there's through the skin, there's gel form, there's cream form. There's multiple ways that you can be treated with testosterone. And whatever the method that you're using, the body will detect the rise in the amount of testosterone, right? And so what is it going to do? It's going to target the glands that produce testosterone and downregulate the production from those glands. So I mentioned it's produced in women, that's in the ovaries primarily, and it's produced in men, primarily in the testicles. There is some production of testosterone in the adrenal glands, but the majority are produced by the gonads. So one of the risks of taking exogenous testosterone is that you may impact the size or have atrophy or shrinkage of the testes. Who's going to tell Heg? Or does he even care? Anyway, on top of that, the exogenous testosterone can interfere with the body's own production of swimmers. And so some people may have an impact on their fertility, or actually taking exogenous testosterone can lead to infertility issues in some men. Now, there is an increased risk for changes in the thickness of your blood, and there's a whole, I don't want to go into too much detail of what that is, but basically an overproduction of red blood cells can thicken the blood, increase the risk for blood clots. Now, for individuals who have normal level of testosterone and take testosterone or a super amount of testosterone, there can actually be cardiovascular risk of that. And so that's definitely, don't take this lightly. Testosterone is not to be played with. And in terms of prostate health, again, I'm not a urologist, but I do know about your prostate, so I'm gonna tell you. When it comes to your prostate health, you should know that while testosterone hasn't been linked as a cause of prostate cancer, it can cause the growth of the prostate. So it can cause tumors to grow. So pre-existing cancer can be accelerated by the use of testosterone, as well as some individuals may experience a worsening of their benign prostatic hyperplasia known as BPH. So it's really important to know all of these risk factors, know the risk factors, know the risk, and the benefits so that you can make an informed decision. But the problem is that this particular policy doesn't seem to allow for informed decision making because it's forcing a screening. Now, here's the question you may be asking. I will definitely tell y'all my first question was, why is this even coming up? What's really going on? That's my first question. What's really going on that is resulting in this thought process or this ideology? Now, are we having issues on the front line? Do we need to know something? Does the public need to know something? Is my question. But anywho, beyond that, so the stretch of the imagination that they're using is that they're assuming that because testosterone has a benefit on strength and power, again, it improves muscle mass, improves bone density. So your power and your strength are going to be better with testosterone. But does strength and power equal skill set? Does strength and power equal efficiency? Does strength and power equal strategy? Because the assumption is that just having strength and power improves your performance on the front lines, your performance in combat. And to my understanding, there is no science that makes that stretch. See, this is where science is different because we don't assume that because A plus B equals C, that C equals D. You know what I mean? So you must have scientific proof to draw those conclusions because, yes, you may have individuals who demonstrate an increase in their strength and power, but may not do better on the combat lines because being effective on the front lines is way more than just strength and power. There are other factors that may play into it. So if your strength and power is greater, but your agility is poor, how that gonna work out? You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm getting at? There are different things that play into the skill set that one may need to be on the front lines. I'm just saying. So those are my two questions. Where is this sudden interest coming from? Are we having issues on the front line? And two, where's the data that shows you that an improvement based on the use of testosterone replacement therapy in individuals who may not be even symptomatic that results in improvement? And will there be clinical improvement if they're not symptomatic? And scientists and clinicians, we think differently, right? Because we understand that what may seem to be logical from a general perspective may not actually be scientifically true. And a lot of times, a lot of us do our research thinking, yep, that makes sense. And then when you actually do the research, you realize, okay, that sounded good in my head, but the science didn't show me that that's really what happens. So you can't make the stretch of saying use of testosterone that already has some risk of using it in individuals who are potentially not symptomatic will result in a statistical change in their muscle mass that will lead to an improvement of power and strength that then would lead to efficient and effective skill set on the combat lines. You see how there's a lot of leaps to get to that conclusion? That's why we don't do that in science. That's why we don't do that. Because you may be completely wrong, and even worse, you may harm people in the process of pursuing your own intellectual curiosity without scientific basis or consideration for the human aspect of science, which is why this is why a lot of institutions have ethics board that review the data, the existing data, determine whether or not your ideology is even logical, scientifically logical, and consistent with current guidelines, and whether or not you're following safety measures to make sure that you're not harming individuals. So, who are the clinicians behind this? And are y'all following your Hippocratic oath? That's all I'm asking. So, do y'all think Haig has a little bit of dad brain? Let me explain why I asked that question. Because there are intentional times where the body actually benefits from a lower testosterone level. Let me tell you about that. So many of you may have heard of mom brain, but a lot of you may not have heard about dad brain. Does dad brain actually exist? And the answer is yes. So the science is showing that there are actual intentional biological changes that result from fatherhood. So society automatically makes the assumption that moms have this natural instinct on how to be a mom. And dads, on the other hand, have to be trained or learned how to be a dad. But the science is showing that that's not even true, that there is no biological intuition for moms to know how to be a mom more than a dad knows how to be a dad. In fact, there is such thing as dad brain, where the science is beginning to show that there are intentional changes in a dad as they walk through their journey of being a father. And some of these changes are phenomenal, and some of them are even more amplified with low testosterone levels. Let's talk about that. So here's the thing. So science is finding out that there are actual hormonal shifts that happen as a result of fatherhood, detectable hormonal shifts. And there are some hormones that are changed that help dads to become more calmer, more alert to the baby, less aggressive, more sensitive. And these physiological changes are important, not just when it comes to bonding, but when it comes to dads being able to fulfill their fatherhood role. And a matter of fact, there are brain scans that have found that new fathers experience reduction in their gray matter volume in the default mode network, the regions associated with empathy and mentalizing. Basically, what it means that this may actually um, sound like a lot. So it's similar to motherhood and mom brain. And we talked about mom brain on this channel before. And we explained that these changes are not necessarily a loss of brain function, but actual a pruning and reorganization of the way the brain works. So basically, when we learned about mom brain, we learned that the way the brain changes helps to downregulate less important tasks and upregulate tasks that help to nurture and help to keep the baby safe. So we're finding that similar changes happens in fathers. So what's really fascinating is that testosterone is one of the primary hormones that has a very much known involvement in this process of fatherhood. These studies have gone way back. These studies have existed for hundreds of years. Anthropologists have been studying this particular phenomenon of fatherhood and how that fatherhood changes psychologically, as well as physiologically a dad. And what some teams have found was that this known drop in testosterone during their partner's pregnancy has been linked with higher investment, more commitment, and satisfaction after birth, and that the hormone levels are even linked to men's reaction to hearing a crying baby. It makes them more alert, more responsive, and essentially makes them better caretakers. They have also found that fathers who have lower testosterone levels tend to be more involved in the caring of babies and toddlers. So this is very, very fascinating, you guys. So essentially, lower testosterone level is not just important in the ability of a dad to be a great father and to have the skill set to be a good father, but also helps them to be more caring to the mother as well and more involved in the mother and the infant postnatally. So it's not just the infant. Similarly, we have also talked on this channel about the importance of the interaction of dads with your child because that interaction, that intentional engagement helps to regulate the other hormone, oxytocin, which is their bonding hormone. So the more involved they are, the more they bond to their children and vice versa. So it's important for us to know not only are there benefits for treating someone who has the signs and symptoms of a possible testosterone deficiency, but also to know that there are times when the body physiologically and very much intentionally lowers the testosterone level for the benefit, I would even say, of society, because better fathers make better members of society. So that being said, a couple of quick things that you should know about me. I am Dr. T and I am a board certified OBGYN. So let's talk about how a healthy dad helps my field of medicine. So a lot of things I'm about to mention are just going to be recap of things that we've talked about before. So head on over to the dad folder if you want to hear more about this type of information. We have lots of content for you guys because we want to make sure that not only we have healthy moms, but also that fatherhood is also a healthy progress and journey as well. So we're very intentional about the content that we provide on this platform, that it is inclusive, to make sure that we are supporting mothers and fathers alike. Now, in the past, we've talked about a couple of things. So let me give you a quick summary of some of the things that you should know about why your health is really important when it comes to pregnancy. One, we know that dad's health is important when it comes to pregnancy outcomes, period. So especially before conception, it's really important that dads are very healthy, not just physically healthy, because that's where our brain tend to go to when we think about health, but also emotionally healthy. So stress hormones can impact the fertility process, can impact the conception process. So it's really important that dad is really in his best health. And so we say on this platform, the dad is pregnant 9 months before, the mom is pregnant 9 months after conception. And together, that's how we get a healthy baby. So the other thing that is important for dads to know is their history. As we shared on one of our recent topics, when it comes to dad's own childbirth process, it's really important to know that information as well. As we talked about preeclampsia before, a dad who is a result of a pregnancy that resulted from preeclampsia is at increased risk for having a pregnancy that is also impacted by preeclampsia as well. So it's important for dads to know not just their family history, but their own mom's pregnancy history when it comes to them. The other thing we've talked about on this platform is dad's age. So we hear often about advanced maternal age. Sometimes people refer to as geriatric pregnancy. Y'all, let's stop using that term. We don't even use that term. So why are y'all using that term? Advanced maternal age, and advanced paternal age actually does exist as well. And so an older dad has been associated with different adverse outcomes for the pregnancy and even certain types of cancers in their offspring. So it's important for us to know that that age group belongs to men who are 40 and over. So anyone who's 40 and above, that is considered to be advanced paternal age. So these are just some of the few things that we've talked about on this platform when it comes to dad's health and how dad's health impacts pregnancy outcomes for not just mom, but also for the infant as well. And there's way more than this. You guys, I'm just giving you an overview because what I want you to do is to get the depth of these conversations by heading over to our dad folder, checking out our content there so that you have a little bit more in-depth discussion about some of the things that I just mentioned. So that being said, I hope this has been informative for you guys. I hope we have better understanding of testosterone, its pluses and minuses about testosterone replacement therapy, how testosterone impacts the body, how it works, and ultimately knowing a little bit more about dad health and how testosterone levels may even impact dad brain. Isn't that fascinating? I thought it was fascinating. That's why I wanted to share it with you today. So as always, I am Dr. T, the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bump Club right here on YouTube and healthybump.club on Instagram. If you haven't done so before, go ahead and make sure you click the subscribe button, click that thumbs up, and give us a ding on that bell so that you know every time we do what? Drop a new episode. I thank you guys for joining me today, and I hope to see y'all when on the next episode. Ew, ew. This is Dr. T. Just a friendly reminder. Don't forget to comment, like, and share. And go ahead, why not? Click that subscribe button. Help us to get to the next 1,000 subscribers. We thank you guys for supporting.